tell people what the Book of Eli is, and then we'll get into it.
The Book of Eli, beginning of the movie, we meet this lone guy. It's clearly the end times. We open on a shot of a man who's clearly shot himself in the head, and a cat comes out to feast on him, and then we see this guy sort of in his goggles, his face totally covered up, and he fires an arrow, establishing that he's good with an arrow. He kills the cat. He's going to eat the cat. We realize, no, it's every man for himself out here. There's desolation, despair, and he is a lonely, singular man on the road. I mean, you really expected him. We learned soon after, about 10 minutes into the movie, 5 minutes in, we learned that it's Denzel Washington, playing a guy named Walker, I believe. You really expect him to pass Viggo Mortensen and his kid. I mean, because it is a lonely, solitary man on a road where you're fearing what? You're fearing cannibals.
Right.
There's a violent, everybody for himself. They're roving gangs of rapists who are going to sort of sexually assault you and then eat you. It's very similar to what we saw in the road. Very similar. And Denzel Washington, turns out, has this book, and this book becomes the focus of the movie. He wants to keep and protect this book. And then we meet, what's his name? We meet Gary Oldman, whose name, by the way, I just figured out is literally Old Man when I saw it on the screen. I don't know why it took me 15 years of following Gary Oldman to figure that out. Gary Oldman leads a group of sort of almost a frontier town, a new establishment. It reminded me a little of Deadwood. He's the leader of the town. He wants Denzel Washington's peculiar violent skills, and he wants this book. And after a while, it becomes very clear what the book is. It's the Bible. I don't think we're letting anything out of the bag by revealing that.
That's super easy. The only thing that I thought was going to happen didn't was that I thought that they were going to forget what the Bible was, and that the bees were going to be missing, and they were going to see it backwards, and they're going to be like the Book of Eli. But it turns out that's not the case.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, I thought too much about it, apparently, right? But anyway, so we're not giving anything away by that. You know that.
It's funny. You know what I thought the book was? Mm-hmm. I thought it was a photo album for a good part of the movie. Until it was firmly established that it was the Bible, I thought he was looking at photos of his family. Huh. And that it would be kind of a letdown when Gary Oldman realized that it was just a book of, and I thought it was like he was remembering his kid and his wife who were obviously killed in the war, which caused the destruction of the world, which happened about 30 years earlier.
Well, the thing that I like better about this movie than I liked in The Road, which is, as we explained, very similar end of times movies, is this at least explained what happened a little bit. The Road was like, I don't know, the world ended, let's just go take it from there, right? And I know that was the point of it, but it annoyed me for whatever reason. Here, at least they explained there was a war, they blew a hole in the ozone, a lot of people lost their sight because of that, and that's why everybody goes around with the sunglasses. It's a little better explanation, which I like a little bit better. And then Denzel was more of a badass. It was a little less realistic than The Road, but at the same time, I love the cool fight scenes. So, and as I told you, I love the end of times movies. I almost can't get enough of them. And if I could, this would be the year where I would have enough of them.
You know, my New Year's resolution is to respect other people's choices and viewpoints. I mean, I was largely headed there to some extent anyway. But I was like, look, I mean, people like other stuff, and I like stuff that people don't like, and other people like stuff, and there's no point in arguing about it.
Right.
People want to like Jay Leno more than David Letterman. That's fine. I doubt those people are funny, but it doesn't mean they're bad people. But that's fine. Whatever. Everybody likes their own thing.
But I'm testing you.
Well, you're wrong. I mean, it's... So, I mean, yeah, you've tested it, and apparently I can't pull it off.
All right. So, in the end, did I like the movie? Did you like it? In the sense, Ben didn't like the movie. Here's my...
Well, I haven't really said anything about it other than it's really repetitive to that, and it's not their fault when they started out to make it.
All right. Well, let me surprise you first by saying that I actually didn't mind the movie. Okay.
Quite an endorsement. They'll put that right on the poster.
I
actually didn't mind the movie.
Right. And it was cool in a lot of ways, still well shot, not as well shot as The Road, but well shot. The fighting was cool. He was a badass. I liked the general theme. I didn't like the ending. I'm going to talk about that later, okay? But we won't spoil it for you people who don't want it spoiled. I would have done the ending completely differently. Look, I'll even rate it right now. In the end, I gave it like a 7 out of 10. I didn't mind seeing it. Some parts were frustrating, one thing, let me just say. The girl in the movie was ridiculous. Everybody's dirty and grimy, and she walks out of Mila Kunis walks out of a fashion shoot, and she's walking around with
Big
I'm
problem.
like, where did this incredibly clean, attractive woman come from?
I mean, I get that clearly the part of the thing is that Gary Oldman runs this town, and he's like, she's the top hooker in the town. They keep her clean.
I get that, but
still,
it was too much.
Too much. I agree.
All right, so what did you think?
Well, first of all, let me say something about our rating system. You give it a 7 out of 10. Like, I've started doing, when I'm doing reviews for CNN and on Huffington Post, I'm giving them a grade. Because what do you mean by 7 out of 10? Because 7 could be average, or 7 could be good if you think 5 is average.
I think 5 is average. I'm not doing it on.
So you're giving it a B, like in that range.
I'm giving it like a B minus.
B minus. Okay.
Like I like the movie. I'd see it again, but I'm not highly recommending it.
We're not that far off. I had to. This movie for me is in the C plus range. I mean, there was a lot to like here. Denzel Washington is a dying breed. Denzel Washington is a movie star.
Right.
And when he's on screen, it matters. You know, it just matters that Denzel Washington just adds depth to it. Mila Kunis, who was so good in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and clearly has the chops to be a movie presence. It didn't work in this movie. She was poorly cast. It was not right.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman, you know, he's got the pot-marked bad skin, which tells you, bad guy. He was fine. Denzel Washington makes this movie bearable. There's a lot to like here. It's cool. It's interesting. Ultimately, I think, and we'll get into it when we discuss the ending, it takes itself and the idea of the Bible and spreading, and you need the words of the Bible to reach the people and control the people. It takes itself way too seriously. This movie has a sanctimony problem. And with a lesser star than Denzel Washington, it would be a failure.
So on a number scale, you're going lower than me?
Yeah, 6.
6, yeah. And I don't disagree with that. I'll take your New Year's resolution. So that's Ben's opinion. It's a good one. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do, which we don't normally do. The ending, if you want to see the movie, you can't know what the ending is, obviously, right? So we're going to do a spoiler alert here. You come back and watch the rest of this after you've seen the movie, okay? Not before you've seen the movie. All right, now
Put that up again, because that was cool.
Yeah, and in fact, it goes with this. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert. Okay, now, you're all gone, okay? Now you're back after the movie.
Right, okay. How about that?
What do you like about that ending? Okay, so now let's talk about the ending, okay?
I mentioned in the previous section that there's a sanctimony problem. It takes itself too seriously. That goes over the top at the ending.
Yeah, okay, so the ending, it turns out that, Denzel Washington is blind, okay?
He's got this book, and Gary Oldman wants it, and Gary Oldman gets the book, and we realize when Gary Oldman opens the book that it's in Braille, and that only can mean that Denzel Washington has been blind the entire movie.
Right, which seems ridiculous, okay? But all right,
which
I don't...
100% is ridiculous, undermines everything they've done. You can barely tolerate the movie. In fact, as I say it, we start talking about it, 6 is too high. Yeah. I got to knock it down. They did such a horrible job of undermining their own work.
Yeah, so the blindness was ridiculous, but I didn't mind that as much. What I hated was, so at the end, Gary Oldman, he's fighting for the book, gets it, it's in Braille, he can't figure it out, everything collapses because he lost too many guys, and la la la. What would have been so much cooler, Ben, is if Oldman gets the Bible, and then Denzel Washington brings the Bible in to the place that he eventually arrives at, right? And
this sort of utopian library of how we're going to rebuild society with the great books of the past.
Right, with the good guys, right? And then they both start. You see what I'm saying? The bad guy starts with the Bible, and the good guy starts with the Bible. And that clash of good and evil is going to happen again. Right. And they leave it at that. That would have been a cool ending.
That would have been a cool ending. It would have been better because it certainly would have been better. They had set up throughout that the Bible essentially is open for interpretation, which is But then again, it's this Denzel Washington's revelation about it when he's given the Bible up to Gary Oldman is, well, it turns out, I've been so busy protecting it that I forgot its main theme, which is essentially do unto others. You're like, oh, well, okay, great. Hey, apparently you can distill it to just that.
Right, and he says in the book that some people think that the war got started because of this book. Yeah, it did. Yeah. Okay. I mean, even in the movie, they're saying that it might have gotten started by the book. Then I thought of the question of what would I do with the book? If I was in Eli's position...
And you had the only remaining copy of the Bible.
And that's what they say in the book, that it's the only remaining copy.
How they would know what was happening in the other parts of the world, let alone 100 miles away.
No, I know, but he said that God had told him that. That was his idea with the
Joe Smith, he talked to God.
Right. So I would have been incredibly tempted to burn it.
Yeah. By the way, he said talk to God, and he believed it, but of course that would be untrue.
Well, that's, of course, your interpretation, which I agree with.
No, but I mean, it's not my interpretation. It's fact. Joe Smith didn't talk to God, and neither did Denzel Washington, neither did Eli Walker.
Okay. What do you think? Let me just pose that to you as a
Right,
random.
all right. What would I do with the book?
What would you do with the book?
You said you might burn it?
Yeah.
To keep it out of the hands of the evildoers?
No, I just don't want. I don't think the Bible is true, and I don't. And
Right, but if God actually spoke to you and said, "Please protect it," and that did happen.
Oh well, then okay.
Right.
Under that premise,
Right,
I'm
well,
like, okay, my bad, God, my bad.
I got it. I'll take it west.
Right. Yeah. No, but without that, I mean, you've got the only copy of the Bible.
Yeah.
Because look, I don't know if I could actually pull the trigger and burn it because I care so much about preserving knowledge that it seems so wrong, and it's my opinion that the Bible is wrong, and it's not necessarily everybody's opinion. On the other hand, it just caused nuclear Armageddon.
Right.
And it's so dangerous in
I'd
the
keep
world.
it if you could get it safely into the right hands.
But the minute of first sign of trouble and somebody says, give me the book, or you're like, oh, you need it? Yeah.
So by the way, real quick, so Denzel Washington's blind the entire movie, shooting people 500 yards away with a handgun. He's blind. He can't see anything. He still shoots them in the head 500 miles away. He wins fights with people who are sighted. Here's one thing that doesn't make... When he saw the couple on the road and attacked them and they sexually assaulted the woman and killed the man and then presumably ate them, and then he runs into those guys later, how do you know what was happening? He's like 50 feet away. His little senses told him that.
Yeah, he claims to smell people a little bit.
He smelled that they were travelers?
Yeah, it's nonsense.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
All right, the final thing I have to say about it, which is total nonsense, is at the end, the girl, Mila Kunis, she kind of takes over and goes back into the world. Mm-hmm. In that world, she's going to be sexually assaulted, murdered, and eaten within 30 minutes.
No, she's got his knife. She's got his big knife.
She doesn't have any of his kung fu skills.
Right.
Why did she go back out there? That was mental.
I think she's going to get her mom.
I don't know way. That might have bothered me more than anything else in the movie.
That didn't bother me more because it was just such a movie moment. But it was weak. I didn't like it. I didn't buy it. I didn't think they needed to make her a badass.
She wasn't a badass in the movie.
What would have been better is her sitting there learning how to read.
Yeah,
so
that would have been better.
Teach people, whatever.
Okay, so you can tell we were frustrated by the movie, but I just can't resist the End of Times movies. I can't resist it.
Yeah, I mean 6 seems too high. This is a C-. This is a failure.
Okay, so you're bringing it back down.
I mean, I'll leave it at a C. I'll leave it at a C because Denzel Washington just gives it because it's
cool.
Because it's very watchable, and that's initially why I was giving it the C+. It's watchable. It is, even though you're like, what the hell? That doesn't make. And then at the end they cut out their own feet and undermine themselves, which is I mean, to call it a pet peeve is an understatement.